right? Edge, I guess you want to call it, the last couple weeks, right? And what we meant by the edge was, remember our diagram with your house, and there's your computer, right? And you're connected via Ethernet or Wi-Fi, and then to your cable modem, right? Which then connected to the, right, coax pipe, which went all the way back to the central office, Comcast, which connected to the network, which went out to various other networks and routers, to the rest of the internet, to you got to where you wanted to go, right? And then you served your pages back. So we talked about that, right? And that's kind of, we talked about, you know, cable modems and fiber to the home and DSL, right? And 5G and satellite, right? Well, there's a little Sputnik for you, right? We talked about that, okay? So we're going to move now from the internet edge, talking about this stuff, to kind of more what's happening here. What's happening here, right? We're going to go into the core. Welcome, Hamza. How are you? For those who just came in, we're trying something new today. We've got a new product. So we got the eGlass going. So hopefully this looks good. Let us know. Okay, so we're going to go in and study the internet core now. Okay. All right. So when we're talking about connections, like how do we get connections? Like if this is our laptop, right? Maybe we have a cord going out to the wall, right? And there's like a connector here. But like how does data, when we hit enter on our computer, how does it actually travel over this? Or maybe Wi-Fi, you know, how does it travel over wires? Like if somebody asked you, you know, how do you get information from the internet? Like what would you all say? Or what could you say? Like, what is it made up of? Any thoughts? Bits? That's a good answer. Yeah, bits. Anyone else? Bits? I/O controller, good. Packets. I like what you're thinking. Addison was on the right track. Go lower. Like, what is physically traveling over these mediums? It's just electricity, right? It's a bit, yeah, electricity, atoms, bingo, ones and zeros, excellent. So literally it's a 1 or a 0. Now electricity doesn't have a 1 or a 0, so it's actually like plus 5 volts and minus 5 volts. You don't have to know that, but we translate it to 1 or 0. And kind of going over the, you know, line is just that, you know, a sequence of things is just going over the cable. Which is fine, because that's how computers talk, right? Computers talk in that. So it's not anything magical, whether it's coax or fiber or Wi-Fi or Ethernet. It's all the same. It's all just ones and zeros. These are just different transportation methods, right? So that's nice, you know, because the internet works no matter where you are, right? DSL, right? Things like that. So, let's talk about these actual transit methods then, okay? So when you're connected, we're going to talk about wired connections first, because from the beginning there were wires. Now everything's wireless, but if I put on my old man hat, I'm like, oh, you kids these days, everything was wires, right? It had been wires for hundreds of years, right? And the most common type of wire is called the twisted pair, right? Okay, and this is made out of copper, okay? And it's quite literally 2 wires that are twisted together, right? And the signal runs along it, okay? They're insulated copper wires, roughly about 1 millimeter thick, right? It's kind of tiny. This is what the telephone company, hundreds of years, you know, you read stories about the Civil War, they're doing the telegraph thing. It was all over twisted pair copper. It's been that way. That's what's in the ground now. That's what, in theory, still connects to your house or apartment. Whether they're using it or not, we saw that DSL and cable people were still using it because that's what's run to the house, right? We don't quite have fiber to the house yet, right? You know, and this is what works, right? Now, if you're in a school, right, university, or maybe an office, you know, you have Ethernet, right? Ethernet, right? It's the cable with the little right head. Let's see here. I used to be a comic book artist. There's the little clip. That's pretty terrible, right? This plugs into the wall, right? You know, into a socket in the wall. I've got this connected via Ethernet here, so we get at least some decent quality video, right? Now Ethernet is nothing but twisted pairs, but it's got like plastic crosses, and the twisted pairs are all together inside a giant cable. Welcome, Brandon. How are you? We're trying something different today. We've got an eGlass, so we're kind of lecturing on this. But Ethernet cable runs this, so it can do more capacity than the regular twisted pair because it's really 4 together, right? Welcome, Arturo. When you pair them all together here, you can support anywhere from 10 megabits per